I'm going to show you how easy it is to get a progress bar into your application. So in the Infragistics Net Advantage Windows Forms control set, we have a progress bar control. And to locate it in the toolbox, look for Ultra Progress Bar. So I'm going to double click on this twice because I want to get two instances of the control onto the form. So at first glance, you may notice that it's pretty much like any of those progress bars that you've seen in many applications out there, such as an Office or your Windows shell, or if you're looking at video editing apps, file copy operations, file upload operations. So you've seen this all over the place. Now, if you wanted to include this in your application for various use cases, anywhere that an end user initiates some kind of action that will take a little bit of time, and that action can be monitored and measured, and you can obtain the progress of that. So think of those use cases, and that's where this would be perfect. So now, before I wire it up to any kind of interaction or any kind of data or anything like that, I want to show you some of the things that are just pretty much easy to learn. So the text is what is valuable here to present the end user with a number of some kind or some kind of value, and that's in addition to the graphical display as it increments or decrements to show the progress. So you could show the remaining percent, completed, maximum, and the current value. So if you assign a value to the control's value property, it'll just show that if you choose value. So these are all the different text formatting options that we have here. You can give it an initial value. Let's say if I do this, so I set it to 50%, hit enter, notice that that's what it looks like at 50% fill. So let's put it back to 0. And the other thing I wanted to show you is the orientation property. If I double click on this one right here, notice how now it's oriented vertically, so you have to resize it. It doesn't automatically flip over, so that's a little gotcha. And what I mean is, remember the size that it was before? It's the same size, but if I set it back to 50%, notice that it's going up. So you have to resize it so that it makes sense visually. Or resize it to whatever you feel. If you think that this is great, then that's fine also. But just keep that in mind so it doesn't get you. Alright, so that one's hard-coded, but the other thing that I wanted to show you is that there's a min value and a max value. So here's the minimum value, which is, you can set it to 0. You can also do negative numbers too. There's also the maximum value, which is set to 100. So I'll just set it to 1,000, just to make it more cool. So, and I also have a timer component on the form, and if I double click on it, I'm going to show you that I've already written some code before. So every time the timer ticks, I'm just going to basically increment this on a timer, and you could imagine incorporating similar type of logic for other operations that you're working on. So let's say if you're doing some kind of video processing, you're going to know, you're going to somehow try to estimate or use some kind of APIs, hopefully given to you by the software that maybe renders or generates or edits the video for you. And if you can't, then you could just estimate a value somehow. But that'll be a tough one to do. But you want to have a maximum value. You establish the max value, and then periodically on a timer, you can check what has been done so far. So you could probably come up with a formula or something like that based on the file size and based on some previous data on how long it takes to process. But whatever the logic is, I don't want to get into too much guidance into how to specifically come up with that magic number, but you always want to establish the max number. If you're talking about something that is actually finite and very predictable, like say if you're going to flip through and process 1,000 database records, you have 1,000, get that number and assign it to the progressbar.maximum property, and then as you flip through each record, you know where you are within the collection, so you could update the value property. But in this timer, all I'm doing is just plussing the value property, and just make sure that you're not setting the value property to a value that is greater than the maximum property, because if you do, it'll throw an exception. And if we do exceed the value, then I'm just going to stop the timer. So let's run this app and see what it looks like in action. So the timer starts, and we're incrementing the value several times per second, and that's what it looks like. So again, there's different ways you could theme this. If you use App Stylist, you could also choose one of our really awesome skins or themes that come with the NetAdvantage Windows Forms toolset. Rubber Black is a pretty cool one. It's like basically a shiny black glass looking theme that they created in the visual design team. So again, always try to incorporate one of these controls in your app whenever there's like a decently lengthy process that will cause your end user to kind of, zone out if you don't give them some kind of feedback. And this at least gives them the indication on how things are going, if their computer's frozen or not, or if it's just a lengthy process.
Infragistics. On the web at infragistics.com.